Hello, and welcome to the next episode in the Hobby Hall series. Here at Mead Wargaming with myself, Arcadius, and we are going to be doing a little bit different today. We're actually going to be doing a little bit of modelling today and actually building some kits, as we are now in a post-Christmas 2024. And as you can imagine, quite a few kits got acquired over the Christmas period. As you can see in the bottom right hand corner there, I've already begun. In fact, I've begun quite a few projects in the last few days. But you're going to be joining me today as we continue to build yet a few more kits. And currently we're going to be finishing off my air wing, and then we're going to move on to some more bits and pieces. But it is worth noting as well that, as per usual, the previous stream from last week will be uploaded to YouTube, so if you've missed that or would like to catch up or have some more to listen to while building or painting your own models, there is more content to follow this stream, which should be ending around 5 o'clock, and around 5 o'clock the previous episode will also be released at the same time on YouTube, so you should be able to directly follow on. So, rather than rambling to the screen, I think we probably will move straight on and have a look what we're up to. So there we go, that is my hobby desk as it stands at the moment. As you can see, we got a few little Avenger Strike Fighters. Now I knew what I was getting for Christmas. I pretty much picked everything out because people didn't know what to get me, so it's nice and easy. So I picked the models I wanted, really, and I love it. I love aircraft. I very much would like them to work in 40k, but they don't work very well. And in one of our previous podcasts, myself and Joe on there had a comically heated debate about whether flyers should even be in the game. But thankfully there is no such contention, shall we say, for Legions. They work very well. They're not overpowered in any way, but they're not underpowered either. They feel right, they fit in. So I actually built most of these last night, as you can see, but they are missing their underslung weaponry. So we're going to quickly put those in, and then I've got another box of 4 which we're going to sit and build as well. And depending on where we get up to, we might be building a little bit more yet. So it'll be interesting to see how far we get. Well, one thing you probably notice is I've got these different flying stands. Now these are ones that I've sort of made myself or in Blender and 3D printed. So I've got a nice little column here with a hollow and a nut there for an M3 nut and an M3 threaded rod, and on the underside of the plane there's also another 3 nut there, so this bar can be removed completely, which does make it a little bit more modular in case I ever decide I want to rebase them for whatever reason, or if I want to do something a bit different with them. And I've also gone for quite long flight stands as well, so that they sort of skim way above the battlefield a little bit more. I've seen some very nice designs of people doing that with plastic clear rods, so I decided to emulate that with my threaded rods. So for my Alpha Legion ones, they've got much closer to the ground, whereas these and the rest of my Auxilia flyers are much higher up. So one day the Alpha Legion might be rebased again. Or at least have the poles ripped out and some longer poles put in place. So I'm really happy with these, and they do pop off quite easily and quite nicely. And as you can see, I've kind of base sprayed a lot of this already. Apart from these models themselves, they need to be hit with the airbrush. But yes, I really like these, and I particularly picked the Avenger Strike Fighters mainly because the alternative fighters are the Thunderbolts, I believe, which are pretty comparable. They seem to be somewhat well balanced from what I can tell just from reading the rules. These are about 5 points more expensive, and that pretty much comes because I think they've got 1 extra weapon, and they also have this little tail stubber. And that's the reason I picked these guys, is because I really like the idea of having a little tail stubber. Which kind of fits the more sort of World War II, World War One maybe vibe of flyers, where they have the tail-mounted gun, which I just thought was really quite cool. Whether that ever really comes up much in the game, possibly not. depends. I just like the idea of it. It looks quite cool, and I also really like the silhouette of the Avengers. They look really cool, and I really like this sort of inverted wing design. Don't know why, I just like the look of it. So these were the obvious choice, so I have actually got 8 of those. So we've got 4 of those ready, pretty much ready to go. I'm going to put the weapons up on the bottom of the fuselage in a minute, and I'll quickly just grab these little guys as well. So I've got 16 Arva's lighters as well, which are already built and ready, and I'll just grab one off there just to show off. So got the little Arva's lighters as well on the elongated flight stands, same base design, and these are really cool. In game, I have no idea whether they're particularly good. I mean, they have literally no weapons. They once they drop off their troops, they are basically flying bricks. So I'm not really sure how useful they'll be in that sense, but considering it's a flying transport for the Auxilia, I think that it's still going to be quite cool and quite effective. They're only 12 points a model, and you can get 2 full stands in there. So they do work quite well, I think. You literally just see 16 of these flying across the battlefield, dropping off what would be effectively, 32 bases of infantry onto anywhere on the board, pretty much, because the benefit of them not having the any weapons is you're not really concerned about being in the advancing fire order, which means you pretty much will always put these in the march order when they fly on, which doubles their move range, which most flyers I think are 25-inch move. These might be different, I can't remember. Which means that these are going to be probably moving a minimum of 50 inches onto the board, so these are literally just going to fly on and land wherever you want them. Once they've dropped off their troops, they're pretty much useless, but that's fine. Again, you're not really worried about them then, so you can drop them over, put them in the hover mode, drop all those troops out, and then either fly off if they survive, or keep them around and keep them in hover mode, because then in hover mode they lose the flyer keyword, which then means they can act essentially like skimmers, which means they can hold objectives and stuff like that. So they're kind of interesting, kind of useful. I think they're a bit of a unique take on a unit in Legions, and I'm interested to see how they work out. Regardless, I will be using them, because 1, I got loads of them and I want more, and 2, I really like the idea of an aerial based infantry corps. And one of the things I really like about these is they really sing to me in my nostalgia for the Starship Troopers movie. So big landers with troops dropping out and potentially not doing very well against bugs. Obviously we don't really have any bugs to play against, sadly. One of our team was going to do a Tyranids army for Legions. We had the rules for it and stuff, but the obviously models don't really exist unless we went into trying to find and eBay grab a bunch of really old epic models. The alternative was 3D printing, but we found it quite difficult to find good, easy to print models for Tyranids. The nature of them being quite spindly and small already at 28mm scale meant that decreasing that made it even more perilous. So that was less than ideal. So they have since moved on to an Eldari force, and again we've from the same person who made the community Tyranids rules also made the Eldari rules, and we've tried those out and they seem okay at the moment. We need to play a few more games to see how they work. But either way, my Starship Troopers dream is still viable. The next thing will be to do some kind of Starship Troopers-esque fortification train from that for recreating a very specific scene from that movie. Which, if you've already seen it, you'll know exactly which one I'm talking about. If you haven't, go watch the movie. It is an absolute sci-fi classic. Unless you're of a younger age, then you might want to get parental permission before watching that one, because it is. I think it might be an 18. It's a very not quite grimdark, but definitely a dark humour and graphic film. But it's very good, and it's well worth a watch. So anyway, that's the Alva Lighters. I'll be getting on painting those at some point, hopefully in the near future. Whether that'll be on stream or not, I don't know. I might just show them off already painted, because I'm planning to paint these guys up pretty soon, as I want to have my my big flyers on the table quickly. Before I proceed as well, you might notice I've got a plaster on here, and that's because of this. So a little bit of a safety notification, really, or point I should make, pun not intended there, and that is I've been trying to very quickly build up a load of terrain to sort of give us some stuff to not only play on for our casual games, but also in this year we very much want to get some Legions content, including battle reports and stuff like that on the channel. So I was trying to rapidly get through a load of terrain and building some baseboards out of foam board, and I was cutting up with my knife and brand new fresh blade, and wasn't really paying attention to what I was doing. I was quite tired and I was rushing, and as I pulled through a bit of foam, didn't realise my finger was here, and I just straight through, and did take off quite a chunk of my finger. So do be careful when using these. It is very easy to cut yourself. I mean, I've got another cut from a previous week on my thumb there, but it's pretty much healed up now. Again, that was me rushing. That I can't blame that one on being tired. I wasn't particularly tired that day, but that was me rushing. And this one was a mixture of being tired and rushing. And yeah, I did gouge out quite a nasty chunk of my finger there. So my advice would always be, if you're playing with knives, or using knives responsibly, do not operate while tired, and do not operate in a rush, because you are going to make mistakes. There is a fine line between being efficient and being quick. Yeah, and so you could also cause yourself some issues there. I've got a... I don't like that. That seems like something that should have been caught by the bot. Can I remove that? It doesn't look like I can. No. That's very strange, very annoying. Please ignore that. That is evidently not something that I want to be interested in. Okay. Not sure if I can remove that or not. That's... gonna ban that account. Bye bye. I can't seem to remove that now. That's very annoying. It's now. I can... Oh, there we go. Is there a cost? There we go. Cool. Right, that's got rid of that potentially problematic message. Right, so let's go ahead and do some modelling. So I'm going to grab my plastic magic. I do like this stuff. Cheaper alternative to Games Workshop. Games Workshop stuff's very good, it's just very expensive. So... right, so for these planes, what I'm going to go for is we're going to go for some las cannons. As the primary weapon. Put them in small parts. If they do fling off, they're going to be a nightmare to find again. Now, one thing that I will contemplate here is, based on the loadout, obviously, most of these weapons can't be fired independently, unlike 40k where you can pick targets for anything. You do have to sort of pick a single target for the unit to shoot at. So you do kind of want to match up what you're going to be targeting. Which is a good point, actually. I'm going to quickly have a little gander at the rules for this. So give me a moment just to have a little look. So we've got... That's a marauder. Don't want marauders. I want to be looking at... We don't want marauder bombers. We're not looking at lightnings. We're looking at Avenger Strike Fighters. Okay. So you get the Avenger Bolt Cannon, 16 inches, 5 dice, hitting on 5s, -1. Light AT, rapid fire, skyfire, which is very nice. So, you know, nice anti-flyer, can do some damage to a tank, although it's unlikely to do a whole lot of damage to a tank, although 5 dice does rack up quite quickly, and it's not too hard to knock a few saves off some sort of medium vehicles. Certainly light vehicles, but even mid-range vehicles like a 3-up armor save is not too bad, actually. You can normally clink off a couple of them with 5 dice. So that's not bad. It does have some anti-vehicle capability. Obviously, it is probably better suited for taking out infantry, but I tend to find most infantry do tend to hide quite well. The autocannons are also light AT as well. So they're not going to be very effective at hitting vehicles, but again, 4 dice, hit on 5s, still not bad. The Avenger las cannons, though, only get 2 shots, -1, hitting on 4s, though, and they are anti-tank, so they will actually be able to punch a tank. Even putting those 2+ vehicles like the Russes onto a 3-up save is quite nice. Still not super efficient, which is interesting, actually, because what that then means is that because it's anti-tank, it's got no AP against infantry, which means it's counter to the bolt cannons. Tailstubber, it's light AT again. It's a very light AT based vehicle, this one. But then we get the 3 options for the other wing mounted weapons. So Hellstrike missiles, nice 30-inch range, 2 dice, hit on 4s, -1. Front arc weapons as per usual. Most of these are front arc, apart from the Tailstubber. And it has Armor Bane, which means you've got to re-roll the dice against it, so that does make it quite a nice anti-vehicle weapon. Yes, that does make it a very nice anti-vehicle weapon. However, the Sky Strike missiles don't have Armor Bane, but they do have Skyfire and Tracking, which means that they become very good as anti-air assets. Now, one thing I'm going to say as well is on these, the missiles are near on identical. If you actually have a look at these things here, they are near on identical. So I'm gonna play the sort of more rule of cool. You're gonna be able to say at the beginning of the game these are equipped with whichever missiles, and that'll be acceptable for the team, I think. And I don't think many other players are going to have any issues with that. If they are the kind of players that have an issue with that, you're either in a tournament or they're not worth playing. Simple as that. So interestingly, the missiles are all focused on being anti-armor. The Hellstrikes, though, could be anti-armor or anti-infantry. So they're quite nice, actually. So although I was originally going to go for the las cannons, I actually think I might go for the auto cannons, simply because of the rate of fire and the fact that they can do damage to infantry more effectively. But they're not. It's not impossible for them to do damage to vehicles. So I actually think the autocannons might be better on these guys. Now, I could obviously do 2 sets, one and one with the other, which is definitely a viable option. But I tend to like a bit of consistency with my units, especially at this stage in my build and my army. Eventually, as I build more and more, I'll probably start. I'll make a couple of units with different loadouts. But I think for this case, actually, we are actually going to go for the auto cannons. So I'm actually going to put those las cannons to one side. I've got a nice new bits box storage system from my brother for Christmas, so I will be having a look at those soon, and we'll be adding so those little bits can go in that nice new little storage system. It's quite nice that the auto cannons actually seem to be quite well balanced compared to the las cannons, because the las cannons are perfectly fine. If you want to really dedicate these to being anti-armor units, then you can easily just fit these out to be dedicated anti-armor flyers, and that would be a perfectly acceptable option. But for me, and the way I'm sort of planning and building, is that I know for a fact that infantry are the big bosses really when it comes to being able to handle objectives in the game. So I know I need to be able to deal with infantry more so than other vehicles. And again, the autocannons are not useless against vehicles, so I definitely think that the autocannons are still going to be the right option for this unit. Whereas a lot of my tanks, if I've got the option between an autocannon and a las cannon, I'll always go for the las cannon, because tanks tend to fight other tanks generally. Certainly the way I play them. But not always the case. I probably will get around to doing some more anti-infantry focused tanks. I think my Lehman Russes are quite anti-infantry with anti-tank capability as well. So, because my current set of Russes have got the battle cannons and the bolters, and that point defense is quite nice. But then my Malkadors have got vanquishers and las cannons, so they're much more focused on being anti-vehicle. And they do, I think I have equipped them with the demolisher cannons as well, which might sound to someone who plays the game a little bit more maybe of an odd choice, because they're much shorter range. They are definitely anti-vehicle. Are they anti-vehicle? Yeah, I think so. But you don't get to use them very often because they're very close range, and obviously I've equipped those vanquishers, which are very long range, so you're not really necessarily trying to move those Malkadors up the board too much. But actually, one, I do tend to move them up more because they're quite tanky. Pun intended this time. But also because the demolisher cannons have, as one might expect, the demolisher trait, which means they can knock down buildings, which is actually very useful for a tank to be able to just remove an obstacle in its way, to either gain line of sight by blowing up the buildings in front of it, or if they come up against an infantry force that is hunkered inside of a building, then all they need to do is roll up to it and fire those big old demolisher cannons straight into the building and bring it down. So I would suggest that that is quite a nice little build. Maybe not the most efficient per se, but I like it. It works for me. Right, let's pop these away. These sprues are done. There's only a couple of bits left on them, which I will clip off, put into my new storage system. I'm trying to decide what to do with all these boxes as well. I think, because I quite like the artwork on the boxes, I'm thinking of removing the front panel and making some kind of collage of box art, which would be quite cool. Probably only for the one. I don't need two of them, for example, but we'll see. So I just need to clean up the tabs on these. Now I just do this with a knife. Some people obviously use files and a bit of sandpaper maybe, or special what are they called? Mold line remover tools, which I think also works on this sort of thing. But I'm just used to using a knife, and it's generally just getting it flat against the plastic as much as possible and pushing against it slowly, not too much force. Again, ironically, I know I was talking about knife safety earlier, and this is something that I learned a long time ago, and I've seen other YouTubers mention this. Oh, literally just pressed my thumb against the blade there, which was not very clever. Thankfully it's not razor sharp, but yeah, so ironically what I was saying was that having a sharper blade is actually better for you than using a blunter blade, because you're less likely to put more pressure onto the blade to make the cut, which means there's less likelihood of you overextending the blade. And where you can as well, you should always try and make it so that if you were to slip, so if I was to slip here and I'm pushing here, the blade should glide over my thumb rather than going into it. Now this one, for example, I can't really do that, but it's only a tiny little tab, so I'm putting so little pressure on there, there's no real danger of me accidentally slipping through. Same with this one. Just very slight little movements to achieve the result. There we go. Yeah, knife safety's become a little bit of a point for me to keep an eye on at the moment, now that I've sliced my fingers twice in the last couple of weeks. And it does make my life a little bit more difficult, especially with my fibro-laced hands. It's not great having to hold these tiny little pieces with the wrong fingers, really. Not the fingers I would tend to use, which is causing a lot more pressure on my thumb. But I got work to do. I can't stop. Could stop, but there's the fun in that. I've got models to build and a channel to work on, so onwards. There. These guys will be finished not too long, and then we'll get started on the next 4. The next hobby stream will possibly be more building, although I'm kind of hoping I'll have most of my new stuff all built by then. So it'll be a case of going back into painting, and I've still got some knights to finish off. Didn't quite get the full rack of knights done that I wanted to, much to my shame. But nevertheless did quite a good job. So the armigers that we started on the previous stream haven't actually been finished yet. Christmas kind of got in the way, as it does. So might finish those up on stream, because there's only 3 left to sort of base coat, and then we can do all the extra little bits I mentioned on the stream last time. So you'll actually get to see the rest of the process of how to paint those knights. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So at least that there'll be at least one video on here where you actually, or at least across a couple of videos, you'll actually get to see the full process from start to finish, minus basing, because I don't think that'll be particularly entertaining, and I also need to do some airbrush varnishing on them between that stage, which I won't do on stream because I can't imagine it would be particularly pleasant to listen to my airbrush blaring off, because you won't really be able to hear me then. Obviously, if that is something I'm wrong about and you do want to see that, for whatever reason, then feel free to let me know, and I can do some airbrushing on the stream, I suppose, but I can't see how that would be particularly entertaining. But obviously I will work to whatever your preferences are. So this process does take a little bit of time. I like building me models though. To be fair, I actually prefer prefer building to painting. And I probably would say I do prefer playing over both. I think the goal is always to get these done and on the table. The only thing I will say with Legions is it doesn't allow me too much kit bashing wiggle room. Do a little bit, but there's not too much you can do. Not effectively where it reads well. So I will be going back to some 40k stuff very soon. And one of my friends bought me a copy of Guilliman, which I think he was hesitant to do because he knew I would kit bash it and turn it into something else. And he's right. But he did it anyway. He supports the idea now. Although that might have something to do with the fact that I bought him a copy of The Lion for his birthday earlier in the year. Well, to be fair, these are not identical. They are. Get it so that the ammunition release is on the right side. I have no idea if that's the actual name. I'm not an expert on modern weaponry, I have to say, or firearms terminology is probably the better phrase for me, really. I'm not an expert on that. I'm not really an expert on any of it, but I'm definitely more knowledgeable on medieval weaponry. Now these are uniform, they don't matter which way around they go, which is good. The only problem with having these on the stand is they're a little bit of a pain to get at, but it's fine, we're persevering. And like I said, I just picked these missiles because these look like the easiest to paint, to be honest. I'm not really fussed about what missiles are actually on there, because I'll either use the Hell Strikes or the Skyfire missiles, or whatever they're called. Sky Strike missiles, something like that. I should just say at the beginning of the game, this is what they're equipped with. Done. No one's really going to complain. Use a tool here to guide it in place. This is not going very well. Oh no. That glue's going to dry up in a minute. Okay, let's try again. Get me big fat fingers in there. There we go. Thankfully plastic glue grabs pretty quickly. And there we go. All those guns underslung. I have to say, these things are very cool. They've got quite a few guns, really, for these planes. But to be fair, they are actually pretty huge. I was comparing them to some of the other models I've got, and they're significantly larger than a lot of the tanks, and even some of the knights as well. They're significantly bigger. Which does make... which is quite interesting, considering we think of the knights as being these huge, monstrous machines. But actually, they're no bigger than a fighter plane. Which is interesting, to say the least. So that's going to go on that side. That's going to go on that side. So I just found that quite curious, really. That the knights maybe aren't quite so enormous as we thought. Mind you, I don't know whether these planes are particularly massive as well. I mean, I don't think so. They don't seem to have a ridiculous amount of weapons for their job role. And from the look of the cockpit, it's only a two-man craft as well. You have a pilot at the front and a pilot at the back, a rear gunner, which in 40k is probably just some kind of poor servitor. I would imagine. Rather than wasting an entire pilot on that. Manning a rear gun. Ooh, that's way too much glue. Absorb some of that with a brush. No, hold on. There we go. Let's try it this way. There we go, that's easier. There we go. Number 2. Ooh, I am looking forward to having these guys painted up. So I'm going to paint these in a different style to my Auxilia, which I don't know if I've shown off on stream yet, to be honest. So they're all on my social media, so you will be able to find them there. At least I think they're all on there. If not all of them, 90% of them will be. Well, they've got very much a sort of a bronze aesthetic to them, or a very utilitarian, muddy bronze, rusty bronze-ish colour scheme. Whereas my knights, as you've seen, have got their sort of dark, regal but dark black and red scheme. Just kind of hint at the fact that they're a bit more sort of, probably more Game of Thronesy knights rather than Arthurian noble knights. And then my Titans have got the really nice, or I think really nice, very flamboyant, bright red and yellow half and half scheme, which really sort of makes them stand out because they are much more pompous. I think they're very flashy, and let's be fair, I mean, you're not really going to be trying to hide a big old war machine the size of a skyscraper, so why bother with not showing off at that point? That was my reasoning behind it all, and that's what I'm sticking with. And I wanted each facet of my army to stand out, so that when they're all on the table together, the thing that unifies them is the common basing scheme, but they're all unique as well, so that when they're arrayed together they look cool. But also, if I decide to lend out the army or someone else is using them, they can borrow an army and it won't look out of place for me to be fighting across the 2 armies or 3 armies or 4. There are 4 armies, so I've got the Alpha Legion as well. But they are very much a sort of a back burner army. They're just there for the fun of it. They're the Space Marine Legion I do like a lot. There we go. 4 completed Avenger Strike Fighters. Very fun. So, they're all done. Let's just grab me tray. Just use magnetic trays to move them around. Keeps them nice and safe. As you can see, I've already got me 4 extra bases there, ready for the new 4. which we'll do in just a moment. But I won't need the bases for now because they won't be going on there until they're finished. And I need to keep some space clear. I've got my instruction book ready to go. We will follow it. And I do build them all in one go. So I do build them at the same time. Depending on how far we get, we might move on to one of my other big boxes. Well, I did get 2 very big boxes, so last box of these, that'll give me 8 fighters, in addition to obviously the 16 transport flyers we got. But I'll give you a quick little preview as well of what we also got. So we also got a Titan Legion, well, a Titan battle group, so a Warlord, Reaver and a couple more Warhounds, which will give me 6 Warhounds in total. That's 2 hunting packs, which is quite cool. It looks like they've got the other loadouts as well, which is quite nice. Although I 3D printed all the other loadouts, it's nice to have some with the actual plastic ones as well. And then we've also got a battle group as well, because can never have enough mortals, or certainly serfs, the lowborn, as it were, to go from to accompany my knights. These will be turned into the Ethereon Auxilia to go alongside House Drakaren. So we've got some stuff in here that I actually don't already own as well. In fact, about half of this stuff I don't have. Obviously I have infantry, sentinels and Leman Russes, but I don't have any Dracosians yet, which is quite cool. And I'm probably going to use the Dracosians to transport my Ogryn around, because I like the idea of them being transported around in these big old honking sort of tank transports. Whereas the infantry will be mounted up in the flyers. And then we've also got the Cyclopses, which from what I can guess are basically just rolling bombs. It's a bit of an odd one. Not quite sure what their uses are. We've got the Rapier batteries, nice defensive little units, and we also got the Tarantula batteries, which will be quite handy, especially as I know my Eldari opponent will probably be running lots of flyers as well, so we need some anti-air support. And the thing I'm most interested in are the 2 Bane Blades as well. Very much looking forward to putting a couple of Bane Blades on, because that takes me back to my first ever real army in 40k, which was the Imperial Guard, most of which have been since lost, well not lost, but sold off and in various parts and bits and pieces. I think I still have a few of their kits lying around, but they weren't really painted for the most part and were not well made. It's my young teenager self. But one of my first big purchases in Warhammer was the Baneblade kit when it was first released. And when it was first released, it was just the Baneblade. You didn't get that massive box you get now of all the different versions of the Baneblade chassis. You just got the Baneblade. And I remember building that kit. It took ages. It was a monstrous kit, but it was such a cool kit with this massive tank. So to have not 1 but 2 again, even though they're tiny, will be very, very cool. So I will definitely be building a couple of those straight away. Yes, because the thing is as well is I can build all my tanks and put them on their bases straight away, because I'll paint them on the bases. Which also means that if I get a game in before I finish painting them, I can actually play around with them beforehand and test them out. All the infantry and stuff like that I do paint off the base, so I can't really use them beforehand. Which is not too bad, because it's perfectly fine at the moment, because I already have a boatload of infantry, which is fine. They're just bonuses. Not sure about the rapiers and the tarantula batteries yet, though. They might be a bit interesting. I would imagine the tarantulas must be quite easy to paint, because they're mostly metallics, I would have thought. So I'd imagine they'll get painted up super fast. And they may... I'll need to have a look at the kit and see whether I want to base them or paint them off the bases first. We'll see on that one. But I'd imagine the rapier batteries I'll probably have to paint off the base. Certainly, I think there are infantry models on those, so definitely them. Whether the little gizmos and stuff actually get painted on a base or not, I don't know. So I may get to try them out beforehand. We'll see. Right, 2 lovely identical sprues. So you get a little bit of an unboxing vid here, which I don't know whether that's something you're into or not. But I'm sure there's someone on YouTube that has already done an unboxing of these kits already, especially as I think these are old, or recycled, shall we say, Aeronautica Imperialis kits. Which is a game I never got into. In fact, I never got into the epic scale stuff until last year, post-release of Legions. Thank you, and a big shout out to probably one of my favourite YouTube channels in terms of battle reports. Not to say that there aren't many other good ones. There are definitely many other good ones and some phenomenal ones. But I think probably my favourite would have to be Play on Tabletop. The video quality that they do is absolutely insane. And their video on Legions Imperialis, their second video, I think, where they did a 16,000 point game, I think it was, or 14,000 point game. 14,000, I think. I've just cut out a missile I don't need yet. Oops. I'll have to do the other one now. Getting distracted. Won't be putting those on until much later. I'll come back to that. Pop them to one side. Hopefully remember they're there. Yes, I need those two. Part 3. Yes, their big 14,000 point game. I watched that, and I've probably watched it 2 or 3 times now, and it just blew me away. Just the epic, pun not intended actually that time, scale of Legions. Just utterly blew me away. Just how amazing it looked and could potentially be. We talked about it on on one of our podcasts when we sort of decided we might lean into to Epic, and well, actually we had the conversation quite a bit before that video was released, because we had that conversation as part of our preamble before we started recording other videos. And we all got so excited by it, but I don't think anyone got as excited by it as much as I did, because I then immediately went out and bought 2 starter boxes. And yeah, as you might say, the rest is history from there. I very much got involved in that, and built myself a couple of armies, which have since developed and I've added to quite a bit. And yeah, in the last sort of, I'd say 6 months or so, I've gone from having no Legions armies to about, well, I mean, I think about 10,000 points of painted Legions models, not including the sort of 2,000 or so points yet to be painted. Might be a little bit more than that, but you get my point. It's quite a lot. Oh, already done those. I just need to grab them from this side as well. So yes, it's quite easy to get into, and to be honest, I mean, there are definitely I know there's some contention about how much it costs to get into Legions, whether it's cheaper or more expensive than 40k. I've definitely seen some people saying it's more expensive. And my answer to that is, have you tried collecting Gene Stealers? Or something like that. There are easily many armies in 40k that are astronomically more expensive than getting into Legions. And pound per point, most of Legions is way more efficient than anything you can buy in 40k. Way more efficient. But like with 40k, it really does depend on what you're trying to do or what you're trying to build. I mean, if you try to build a full infantry core army, then yeah, it will be expensive, because they are probably not the most efficient. Well, they're not the most efficient kits point per pound, because they're infantry. They don't cost a lot of points. But then they're not that bad either. I don't think they're that bad even compared to a lot of 40k stuff. I mean, I think an Auxilia infantry box, you get something like 250-ish points of models. I mean, granted, you can't use all of the command bases most of the time. But you can certainly use a lot of them. Or at least half, probably. It's... Can you... Yeah, in theory you could. You'd have a lot of small formations, but you could in theory. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. So there is a little bit of redundancy in the kit. But that's kind of just how it works. So yeah, you do get quite an efficient amount per box, I would say. Certainly compared to some kits when you're talking Space Marines. I mean, what do you get? 10 intercessors for like 180 points or something, whereas I can get 250 points at Legions for the same price. Oh, hello Zeta, welcome to the stream. Nice to see you. You've missed the beginning, obviously, which I'm sure you can tell. So give me 1 second while I take a quick swig of my drink. So we're actually building today, and we're actually building some new kits I got from Christmas. And I will just mention, just in case no one who's watching this in the future or now doesn't know, Zeta is part of the team, and is the one who actually got all these stream systems started. But I just showed off that I've built. It is definitely flyers. So I've got 16 Arvus lighters already built, with my new little flying stand, and you've got my extra long threaded bars now, so they actually look like they're flying, which is much cooler than the previous ones I've done. So 16 of those for all of my infantry, and they are the Auxilia transports, yeah. And what I really like about them, and you'll appreciate this, is they remind me of the Starship Troopers landers. So you can imagine where my theming of this army is now going. But of course, I couldn't just end it there. We have also got some Avenger Strike Fighters as well. Just finished off 4 of these, and we're currently building another 4. So there we go. So we got the fighters to protect them. And previously, I also showed off what we also acquired over Christmas as well, which I'll quickly pop on screen for you, just quickly again. Yeah, you will definitely want to get some if you want to go against my Auxilia forces now. But we got a big old Titan box with some big old Titans. So Legio Invictorum is going to be quite a big little legion now, or Legio. And also the Solar Auxilia Battle Force, which I've been eyeing up since it came out, and thankfully they are still in stock. So lots more Auxilia. So yeah, we got lots of fun stuff going on there. how is your Astartes force going? Oh, Mechanicus, yeah. I just saw some an unboxing of the new dark mech stalkers and stuff, which look very cool. I'm assuming dark mech is what you're going to be adding to your Iron Warriors. Okay, you haven't quite got around to doing much more painting yet. Well, I don't know whether you heard, but I've got a massive amount of points worth of Legions painted now, so we won't have to worry too much about having painted models to show off. So I think... Well, you probably can tell having seen quite a few of my social media posts, but I think by the end of... yeah, I think by the end of this week, depending on how other projects are going, because I'm doing multiple projects simultaneously, I will have 4,000 points of knights fully painted. About 1,000 points of Auxilia, 2,000 points of Astartes, 2,000 points of Titans, and then obviously with all this other stuff as well, yeah, it is a lot of knights. Once I've got all this painted up, it will work out to have, I will have 3,000 points of each of them, plus, well, 3,000 points of Auxilia, 2,000 points of, it will stay at 2,000 points of Space Marines, net 3,500 points of Titans, and obviously the 4,000 points of Knights. So, yeah, it's a huge, huge army. Most of it I can paint quite quickly as well, which is quite nice. So I'm hoping to have quite a lot of them done soon. But I've also been working on some terrain projects as well, because I want to get some games recorded and some other bits and pieces done as well. So we need some nice terrain to look at, and off in the distance there is several shelves worth of terrain that I've been building up over the last few days, actually. So the building and painting has taken a bit of a what do you call it? Break. That'll do. While I work on all these terrain projects. But I'm currently waiting for some more materials to arrive tomorrow. So I thought, oh, well, that's a good opportunity to get on and build some of these Christmas kits. And as it was streaming day today, it made sense to do some of that on stream with you guys. So you can see the process. I did have to do a little spiel at the beginning about knife safety as well. As you might be able to tell, I wasn't following knife safety myself the other day. 'Cause, 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 Sadly, yeah. A Chaplin print. Are you planning on running lots of those? Oh, hang on. You're not thinking of repainting some stuff, are you, John? Sorry, Zeta. I feel like I know where this is going. No, we're definitely not staying in the Legions era of Horus Heresy, because otherwise it won't work for a lot of what we want to do. Well, not exactly, but a little bit. Right. Well, you are going to have to explain that then, because I know and that your current army is supposed to be Iron Warriors. And I also know that your current 10th army is Black Templars. So there's an interesting leap of logic there of how they're going to marry up. So should I take that to mean that you are actually going to be repainting some stuff? And the, well, sort of is because you haven't painted up that much, it won't make much of a difference. Yeah. Figure that might be the case. Well, that'll be interesting. Does that mean that I might actually have some Titans to shoot at? Because at the moment, my Titans don't feel like I've got many to fight against at the moment. Oh, okay. Got another thought. I'm interested to hear what thoughts you're having. Well, if you have a Black Templars, that will mean you're not likely, I would imagine, to be making use of Dark Mechanicus kits now, which is interesting. The Iron Warrior scheme doesn't... Okay, yeah. Yeah, I can kind of see what you're saying there. Although that makes them really efficient at paint, which is why I quite like them. But as we all know, I'm a lazy painter, so I would like them for that reason. Yeah, yeah. Hazard stripes do make them not quite as simple as just whacking lead Beltron and calling it done. I'll give you that. So, how are you going to make Black Templars, potentially, stand out more in Legions? Oh, imagine doing an Emperor's Champion for Legions, that would be quite cool. Mm-hmm. Okay. Blood Ravens. Okay. Yeah, yeah. When you say bring in all those buildings from the Dawn of Wargame, what, as units or just as terrain that you're just going to bring as part of your setup? Yeah, I mean, painting-wise, they will be ridiculously easy. I mean, you could dry brush them red, give them a quick wash, and then do the shoulder pads. That would be very easy. Okay, yeah, you could theme yourself your own little set of terrain, which would work quite nicely. Yeah, that's true. Which would hit the nostalgia for some people, I'm sure, from the old Total War games. Oh, I can't remember how these work. I know why that's not making sense to me. I haven't clicked off a part yet. I need number 1. That's why it wasn't making sense. And working alongside Eldo is very caliber. Yeah, no, that does make a lot of sense. Especially with our other member, as I've already mentioned today, is doing the Eldar or the Eldari. That does actually stand true. Yeah, I do see your thinking there. And let's be fair, we all know that most of these games are going to be versus me, because I'm going to have the the most options for you to fight against. Okay, yeah, and that I suppose that does kind of work out in the sense that if we've got you playing what is essentially a loyalist faction, a loyalist Space Marine faction. I was going to give them a quick test paint to see how they would come out. Yeah, definitely worth doing, especially to see whether you can paint them as efficiently and as easily as you would like to be able to do them. You can definitely do some very cool stuff. I'd imagine a Thunderhawk would look very, very nice. If you're doing it with, that's a good question. If you wanted to brush paint it, which I would say you're mad, but if you wanted to brush paint it, probably Flesh Terror's red over grey sear, or maybe even potentially a slightly darker grey, or a brighter grey, depends what way you go. But if I remember right, they're quite a dark red, quite a rich red. But if you were to airbrush it, which would be my preference, I think, if I was to do it, I'd probably airbrush them all with Corn Red, and then use Reichland Flesh Shade Wash. I think would be the right call there. Maybe just Null Oil would work, but you might get a little bit of extra richness out of the Reichland. That would be something I'd test, and that's more on theory. Obviously, I haven't actually tried either of those. Yeah, I'd spray everything with this, and then wash it. I know. I might be the laziest painter in the world, but I'm quite good at figuring out what to do. Also, you might be interested to know, actually, I have solved airbrushing. I have the secret to airbrushing. Yeah, I thought I'd tee that up for you. So, the biggest issue with airbrushing is, without a doubt, certainly in my experience and my opinion, the biggest issue is, and always will be, no matter how well you clean it after every paint or every session, it gets clogged to some level. Even if it's only clogged to the point where it's only spitting paint, or it's not putting the paint out as well as it used to. Okay, Now, this started to annoy me recently because I have just changed my compressor. I've got a brand new compressor, and my gun is only 6 months old, and for the life of me, no matter how much I cleaned it, I've cleaned it in isopropyl alcohol, I've cleaned it in acetone, and it still wasn't kicking out the paint like it used to. Like, it would come out in like a small cone, and not always very well, whereas when I first got that airbrush, it came out in a nice wide cone, and you could spray a nice even coat over anything. And then I came across, while looking at how to do some stuff with my work at the moment, we've got a big gel spray gun, and I was looking at ways that we could clean it, and I discovered one of these, which is an ultrasonic cleaner. And all I did is bought a nice little desktop ultrasonic cleaner, tap water and washing up liquid, and just a tiny bit of washing up liquid, pulled my airbrush apart into all its little parts, put it in there, whacked it on for 10 minutes, took it out, ran some clear water through it, and I am not joking, my paintbrush is firing like it's brand new. So I now wash it in that every day, or before or after every session. The paint, that paintbrush or that airbrush is like brand new. I cannot undersell it enough. It is that good. It is the perfect fix for airbrushing. I still leave it in a little tub of water, just out of habit really, but to be honest I probably don't even need to anymore. You could literally just whack it in that and clean it prior to washing, and it works perfectly straight out. If I'm doing a particularly big run of a single colour as well, and then I want to swap to another colour, I'll whack it in the ultrasonic cleaner for 3 minutes, just to clear out any residue between paints as well. It's phenomenal. I've not had there's no words for it. It's that good. I would get it out and show you, but I don't want to fire it off. Yeah, no, I've seen people use them for stripping models. I've never seen anyone try to clean an airbrush in one before. I'm sure I'm not the first person to think of the idea, but yeah, I tried it. It's perfect, and obviously no abrasive chemicals either, so you don't have to worry about damaging O-rings or anything like that. It's literally just tap water. You can use ISO in it, because I did try cleaning the brushes out in it as well, but I think something to do with the paint being absorbed into the bristles, even an ultrasonic cleaner can't seem to get rid of that, from what I've been testing at the moment. But nevertheless, I mean, it's a great tool, and I highly recommend if you want an easy life with airbrushing. Costs a little bit of money, but it will save you so much pain and suffering in the long run. Especially if you've got an expensive airbrush as well, it's worth spending that little bit of extra money on keeping it working. It's a good point actually. I need to see if I've still got my old airbrush, the one that stopped working 6 months ago. The actual gun stopped working. I might try it in that. I might try whacking it in there and see if that fixes it. Because if it does, then I've got 2 airbrushes. Not sure why I'd ever need to, but I'll have to. Be very interested to see if it can recover an old airbrush. Like I said, I mean, it cleaned out one that had been in constant use for 6 months. So, and it literally cleaned out after just a 10-minute run. Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, well, I'll be interested to see what you do if you do some Blood Ravens. I'm interested. I'm gonna be trying to convince you to definitely go into getting some Titans though, because I need some Titans to fight. Yeah, you're probably right. Especially if my airbrush wash idea works, then it'll be very easy. Yeah, I think obviously I've got quite a few Titans. I want to run them a fair bit, and I know our Eldari player will be running some Eldari Titans, but it'd be nice to have a couple of opponents. Oh really? That'll be interesting. That will be interesting. I'm still married to my idea of making a mostly plastic version, which I will be working on in the nearish future. I've got train and armies to build first, so it's going to be on the back burner for a little bit. But I've got 90% of what I need to make it now, and yeah, I've even started compiling some 3D assets as well to sort of help me build out the project. So it will be on the list for this year. I don't think these models will take me too long to paint. I mean, I painted that Knight army in about 4 weeks, give or take. And that was a full army, whereas I've got 2 half armies to do here. So probably in about a month or so, I should be able to get all of this done. Obviously, not accounting for the fact that I'm also doing a load of terrain. So I'm going to predict that by March, I should have all of these armies done and a full, well, hopefully at least 2 tables worth of terrain done, if not starting on the 3rd. Which might sound strange to you because you know I've only got 1 double-sided map, but I've got a plan. But I won't reveal that yet because that's a special little project that may hold some interesting future prospects for our channel. So I'll keep that one closer to the belt for now on stream. I don't mind telling you off camera, but I'm not going to reveal that here. Oh yes, you do have a load of trench terrain actually. I definitely will want it. But I can honestly say right at this moment in time, I won't have time to make use of it. So keep hold of it for now. Because it will be on my list of things to do. But we've got we just got a hot wire cutter bench in at work, which I now have full access to. And so I've been making quite a few things out of foam recently. So we've got some nice big but scaled to Legions terrain on the way, which should hopefully be done by the end of this week. Again, I'm waiting for supplies to turn up tomorrow before I can finish them. So I want to get all the terrain done ASAP. Thankfully, the terrain's not too big. Yes, no, I managed to. I mentioned it at work, and because we work with the same foam I want to use to make the train out of, and I just suggested to the boss man, said, oh well, I really want one of these things, but I think they'd be quite useful for here as well, and because they're quite expensive, and I didn't necessarily want one hanging around the house. So I made my case, and we sat and worked it all out, and he agreed that it would be useful. So managed to get one in through work without actually having to commit to buying one for myself. Probably a little bit cheeky, but he'd have done it anyway, to be fair. Well, and he got the benefit of me coming up with the ultrasonic cleaner for our spray gun at work as well. So, you know, we both benefited from that exchange. Because that's made cleaning that industrial gun so much easier than he's ever experienced. So much so that I think he is thinking about getting an industrial ultrasonic cleaner at some point. Yeah, that answers that question. Yeah, no, we literally just had another one of those little ones. We just took the gun apart and just cleaned the bits that we could fit in there, and again, it works amazingly well. Even for that, which is a much harder material to clean than paint. So it just goes to prove that it really does work. Hence why I'm now thinking about trying to resurrect my old airbrush. I'm sure having the spare will come in handy at some point in the future. Here's a question. I haven't been looking at the rules. Do you reckon that a pure Mechanicus army would be viable at Legion? To be perfectly honest, I don't know. Only because I haven't actually read the Mechanicus rules, because I don't really plan on running them myself. And up until now, I didn't know that anyone was. I knew you might do at some point, but you haven't confirmed anything, so I haven't bothered reading the rules. So I will definitely read them now that I know you're going to get them, because, well, you know me, I like to know things. But I can say with certainty that the rules have been written so well so far, I'd be shocked if they weren't viable. Because I have now run the Legio, the Collegia Titanica, and the Questoris Familia as full armies, with no allies. So I've done full Titan army and a full Knight army with no allies, and they work. The rules just work. It feels like they shouldn't, but they do. So I'd be very shocked if the Mechanicus doesn't work as their own army. I'd be very, very shocked. I would obviously, if it was me, I'd still be mixing in other stuff anyway. In fact, the rules for the Mechanicus very much encourages you to mix in Knights and Titans anyway. There's a few formations designed around that. But yes, I'd be gobsmacked if they didn't work in their own right. Be interested to see what other Mechanicus kits end up coming out for Legions as well. Well, let's pivot slightly to some 40k, because some big 40k news has come out recently. On Christmas Day, which is, I say news, reveal of the the brand new Demon Primarch Fulgrim in plastic. Oh, what a model. please feel free to relay your thoughts. I'm assuming positive because I've heard nothing but positivity about it so far. Well, actually, that's not strictly true. I have seen a couple of people moan a little bit, but yeah. Well, one of our own team is potentially thinking of starting an Emperor's Children army now that that model has been revealed up. Which would be quite interesting. I mean, I'm lucky. No one seems to want to do Thousand Suns. So when I eventually decide I'm going to buy Magnus and maybe do a small, proper Thousand Suns army, at least I ain't got to fight anyone. Well, that's what I said in our team chat. I think if he does go down that route, I reckon we need to get all 4 of them and do a challenge video for a month. Because there are 4 of us in the team, and there are 4 Demon Primarchs. The Blood Wolves. The Blood Wolves? What's the Blood Wolves? I've never heard of that. You're intriguing me now. Oh, right, okay, yeah. It is the alternate heresy thing. Because I know Pete the Wargamer has converted the Angron model into a Demon Russ. Which I have to say was a phenomenal kit bash. And one I'd love to try and do myself one day. Just for the fun of it, but I gotta be honest, the Demon Primarchs, I do want to get all 4 of them and own them and paint them up, obviously, because at the end of the day, they're just very cool models. But I need to actually have some 40k armies first before I actually start buying models just to display. However, if we do a Primarch month, then I will break that rule because it's for content purposes. In which case, I will buy Magnus. Oh, I'm just gonna have a quick look at that link you sent. The Blood Wolves. Blood Wolves are a warband of Chaos Space Marines that were once a great company of the Loyal Space Wolves chapter. Yeah, I've never heard of them. Where are they from then? I'm assuming they must be from some book or something. Codex Chaos Space Marines 4th edition. Codex Space Wolves 7th edition. And White Dwarf 387. Okay. Well, at least they have got a couple of sources there. Interesting that they are at least old as 4th edition as a concept. Doesn't look like there's a lot on them though, so that's interesting. That does give you a lot of freedom. Yeah, that's interesting. Is there any particular reason why you'd want to do Cornite Space Wolves? I feel like one of our team might have a problem with that. With their sister wolves. Though that would be a perfect little rivalry built up straight away, I suppose. What, to rival the sister wolves? feel like we'd be ganging up on them a little bit, considering if I ended up doing a little Thousand Suns army as well. Because, you know, them and the Space Wolves don't exactly get along well. Oh, well. Chaos Salamanders. Okay. There's a lot of obscure, like, fallen chapters and stuff I've never really bothered to look at. I say never bothered. I've always had other things to look at. Surely, Chaos Salamanders, though, they must have some wild potential for conversions. Demonic dragons and stuff like that. Lots of scales and claws and bones. I mean, I imagine they'd probably look like they'd look like really sort of almost caricatured or over emphasized versions of the Black Dragons Space Marine chapter, which are the ones that have all like the bone claws and stuff like that. I'd imagine they'd be a bit like that, but like turned up to 11. Instead of having Chaos Space Marine bikers, you could have Chaos Space Marines riding demonic dragons. Or take the Dracoliths, I think, from Age of Sigmar. Oh well, there you go. Makes some sense then. Now, I can imagine you could do a lot with that. Oh, I'm just thinking about. Oh, there's so many Age of Sigmar kits you could steal for that idea. Like the Caradron Overlords, not Caradron Overlords. The Fire Slayers Magma Droth would be really cool. Use that as a tank. Oh no, use that as a Mauler Fiend. We don't use demon engines, we use dragons. Oh, so much potential. No, I'm going to stop tempting you because I want you to build up your. I want you to build up a Legions army, please. we've got 8 mil games to go through. Which does mean you need to pick a lane. In fairness, you don't even necessarily need to pick like an army, you just need to pick a side. Xenos, Chaos or Loyalists, and then just go crazy, do what you want. Because that is one of the beautiful things I like about Legions is there is really no requirement for you to stick to one army. Hence why I have 4. Generally focusing on 3, but I have 4. And I have cheated a little bit because one of them's Alpha Legion, which means I can kind of play both sides. But it does lock me out of things like trying to add demons or demon engines and dark mechanicas in, which is fine because I don't really care about those. Here's the thing though, because you were doing. Oh yeah, no, I realise that. Yeah, so if you're going to do, say, Blood Ravens, that does kind of shoot down the idea of demon engines for you. Because that was going to be your big thing, wasn't it? Demon engines. So if you were to do Blood Ravens, would that mean that you're going to sort of lean more into the more traditional stuff? Obviously, I'm imagining, obviously there's going to be a decent Mechanicus portion to this force, considering you've already mentioned it. So you've got two armies there that you can sort of run as a coalition or as independent armies. Got anything? Is there a third facet you might want to look at or consider? Or would you be happy just sticking to sort of a Astartes and Mechanicus? And preferably Titans. Oh, I just gave you a new idea. Oh, there we go. See that? This is why you need to have these conversations, because they spark ideas. In fact, it was a conversation with you that sparked the idea of me making an Imperator. So what's this idea then? I'm assuming you might already be typing it, but oh, okay. Well, Zeta is busy having a little chat. We'll just carry on building our way through some planes. Hopefully get these done before the end of the stream. I was hoping we'd blast through these and get straight onto some tanks, because I'm definitely going to have to build some Baneblades. I reckon we probably will. These don't. Once you get the wings done on these guys, these tend to finish up quite quick. And they've done the wings in quite a few different parts, but I suppose that's the nature of them being a segmented wings pattern, I suppose. I must let my Eldari player know as well that we can definitely do his tank battle that he wants to do, because he's got a load of Eldari tanks, and he tried playing his Eldari tanks into my my mixed army, and it didn't go his way. So I suggested that next time, if he wants to do a big tank list, I'll bring a big tank-based army. And that way we'll see how it goes. Which I can definitely do now. I mean, I might cheat a little bit and bring Titans or Knights. Same principle though, big vehicles, rather than all the infantry and stuff I was spamming last time. To be fair, I mean, we both bought Titans last time, so it's still that wasn't the issue. It was mostly the disproportionate number of tanks versus my masses of infantry, which definitely seemed to give me an advantage there. Be interesting though, but I think a big old tank battle would be quite cool. Especially as there's lots of examples of that in the lore of big tank wars that have taken place. Like the Devastation of Talon, which is actually a supplement for Legions, which I must get my hands on that book. I need to see if there's. I know that's where they introduced some tank rules, but they didn't. I I don't know how much more was in there. I know there was a few bits and pieces, like Astartes being able to bring some of their vehicles as HQs, which I don't. I'm a little bit conflicted by the way they've done that as well, because the Auxilia can only have tank commanders in certain detachments. It's a faction that is known for its tanks, and it's a 10-point upgrade in certain detachments. But the Astartes can just bring a tank commander, as in just grab an old model, grab any old model, and call it a tank commander, with some kind of appropriate identifier, I suppose, but essentially they have a HQ tank unit, or model, which I don't think is very... It doesn't really... I don't like it. Not when there's two very different rules and they both have problems. And the problem is obviously with a tank commander upgrade rule, like the Auxilia have, it means that you can only access it in certain detachments. Or, even if you did open it up to just being any detachment, or the other issue is obviously you don't then get to fill a HQ slot with said tank. But obviously the benefit is it's just a cheap little 10-point upgrade, and it fits within the confines of the kits that you buy, because the kits don't come with extra tanks to make commanders. Now the Space Marine version of doing it is that they can fill a HQ slot with a specialist tank commanding model. Now the problem with that is, well, the kits don't come with spare models you can just assign as a tank commander, which I don't like. I don't like either of those solutions. I feel like one or both. To be honest, I prefer the version that the Auxilia use, which is just a tank. You can turn a tank into a tank commander for 10 points. I prefer that, and that's the way I think the Space Marines should go as well. They shouldn't have a dedicated tank commander model, because one, it doesn't fit inside the confines of the kits, and two, it means then that you don't just have you don't just get to slot in a HQ tank, which is, I just don't think it's right. Whereas at least that way around, then, even if you then opened it up for both Auxilia and Astartes, both can just make a tank commander for 10 points, limited to say 1 per detachment, 1 per formation, then that still works, because then you can have them in a detachment, but it also means that you can't just fill out a basic detachment with a tank commander rather than using an infantry commander, because then you do that every time. Probably. Well, not necessarily always, but there's a high likelihood. So I think that would work. I think that's the way I would change it, potentially. I was back briefly. My PC broke for a moment. Oh, okay. No worries. I assume you're back now. I was just rambling about another rule that I might want a house rule, and add to the small collection of Mead Hort rules for Legions, which I am going to have to compile into a little document, because there aren't many rules, because most of the Legions rules I think are phenomenal, but there's a few that I think need tweaking, just to make the game a little bit better and a little bit fairer across the board. And adding some rules as well. Like Psychers. Psychers need to be added to the game. I need some way of fitting Psychers into my army, actually. It's going to have to be through the Auxilia. Obviously, there is the Psi Titan, which I will need to do at some point. I do have a Warlord there, so it's going to be magnetised so I can make a Psi Titan. I just need to find some appropriate prints for the Psi Titan weapons. Head's easy, I would have got the head. Oh, right. Wait, what? Okay, now back proper. Right, so... Oh, okay, right, gotcha. For some reason I thought you were saying you're back. You thought you were back, but what? I'm confused, but I'm not anymore. What army is actually going to be running now? So, the army that she's going to be building for herself is going to be a Night Lord's army. With a Night Household attached. And for the time being, while they're building up that army, they're also going to be borrowing an allied force of Alpha Legion. Because I won't be running it for most of the time. Said Night Lord army is currently on the painting desk as well, and not being painted by me. I mean, yes, but that doesn't work with Blood Ravens, does it? Unless you're going to tell me that there's some weird background reason why they suddenly work with demons. Because now I'm confused about what your intentions are entirely. Just to clarify, hell yeah, please, someone run demons. I really want someone to run demons. Mainly because I really want to write rules for demons. But I need to know how you're going to run that with Blood Ravens army, because that really doesn't make sense to me. Demons would be great for you as well, because I bet you could paint them up stupidly fast. Right. Okay. That explains the lack of response to that. Then, hopefully, it doesn't break again. Hopefully, no. So, just a recap. I was saying, hell yes, please run demons, because I really, really want someone to run demons, because I really want to write demon rules. And they'd also be stupidly easy to paint, I would have thought. And there's so much potential for new units we could add for, you know, Legion scale units, massive demons. But my main question is, how would that work if you're planning to run Blood Ravens? Or is this you now saying that you might not run Blood Ravens? because otherwise I do not see how this works. Am I... Correct me if I'm wrong here, but... Yeah, not blood ravens, but a similar colour scheme with demons. Are we talking word bearers? Are you now thinking word bearers? Ah, okay. Well, now... If that would be your plan, hell yeah. Yeah, I would be well up for a word bearers, demon, dark mechanicus combined army would just be phenomenal. Yes, and you could just buy some full scale demons to be like Titanic demons. Oh, yes, no, if that's what you want to do, yes please. I massively endorse this idea. Massively. Oh, what's that? Let's have a quick look. Is it going to load? Might not. Doesn't want to load it. Oh, we'll leave it up there for a sec. Disorder Galactic Crusaders characters. I mean, I've seen a lot of their stuff before, so I'm guessing I've got a rough idea of what they're probably looking like. But yes, no. If you want to do word bearers with demons, and I'm assuming dark mech as well, hell yeah! Please, please, please do that, because that sounds phenomenal. And there's a lot of scope of potential there for doing some cool units, interesting stuff. As well as also still mixing in some of the basic stuff as well, so we can show off the stuff. Yeah, and they will be quick to paint. In fact, what is it? I've painted some dead word bearers on some of my bases already, and yeah, they're stupid easy. I mean, you could do them as black. You can have them with a metallic undercoat, and do what's it called? Names escaping me. Flesh toned red over it. So you can get like a metallic sheen to the armour, which I've seen done before, which looks very nice. Or you could literally do exactly what I said for the Blood Ravens: corn red, Reichland, or Nuln Oil over it, and that's the armour done basically. Just paint the shoulder pads in red. Paint the shoulder pads black. I think works really well. I believe I did corn red base paint and just Nuln Oil washed it, I think. That's how I did them, and then I painted the space on the pauldron black. yeah, that's literally what I did. It took me about 2 minutes, if that. Yeah, no, it's stupidly easy. I mean, you could do. I could probably paint an entire box of infantry in probably an afternoon, because I'd literally just I'd zenithal the. I'd spray it all black and then just zenithal the whole thing with corn red, and then wash it with Nuln Oil, and then pick out their guns in black, do some silver, done. Pretty much that simple. If you wanted to get a bit fancy, I suppose you could obviously try and do some runic symbols and stuff on the infantry, but it's not worth it on the infantry. Maybe on like the hero bases, the commander bases, might be worth doing a little bit extra, just a little bit. And then what I'd do is on the vehicles, I'd use the same method. Although if you want to do it like I done with the Alpha Legion, actually, because I quite liked it, you do the 2 different styles of the paint. So do the spray corn red and wash with Nuln Oil, but then on the vehicles, zenithal with lead belcher, and then either paint on or spray on Flesh Tearers red, and you'll get a metallic red versus the ceramite red of the infantry. Now I know in theory, I think lore-wise, I think the vehicles are also in ceramite. I think, but if you've seen my Alpha Legion, you get those 2 different color tones. They're the same color but different style, so it looks different, which I quite like. It's up to you if you want to do that. But that's something I would do. I think with the tanks I brushed on the contrast, but then on the flyers I actually airbrushed it, and I found that the airbrush was just as good. The only thing is you probably would want to potentially want to wash it afterwards as well, just to help with the definition, because obviously the contrast doesn't do the same thing through the airbrush. But doing it that way, you'd still get the metallic through. If you did it with the contrast, so either way, I think it would work. It'd be the same steps. It's just whether you wanted to wash it after the contrast or not is up to you. And then to style the vehicles a bit more, I'd probably put a rune or 2 here and there. I wouldn't go mad. I mean, you see what I did with my Chaos Votan. They've got runes everywhere. It's an absolute pain in the backside. With your Legion scale Word Bearers tanks, I would just do like the odd rune here and there, like a 1 panel or something, or on a turret. I wouldn't go mad. Unless obviously you decide to make a tank commander, then you might want to do a little bit more, which goes into the whole point I was just moaning about when you were not here. Then demons will be an absolute breeze, because that could pretty much be done with all airbrushing, I would have thought. Not airbrushing, contrast. That would be my guess anyway. So I'd probably do demons. Potentially, depends if you could get a transfer sheet that would do the job. Because I have put loads of transfers and stuff on my my knights, so they work quite well on Legion stuff, definitely. Just thinking about it, I've got. Obviously, you don't get many transfer sheets from what I can tell for like different factions. But like these solar Auxilia ones, they have like these really cool sort of ball-headed things, these sort of horned things here, and these sort of symbols here. So this is the Solox kit, Solox transfer sheet. I reckon if you use the white ones from these three, because they look the most sort of demonic, maybe. I mean, potentially that one as well. Kind of has like a pentagrammy look to it. So those four potentially. Use those, and then once you put them on the model, put a like a yellow or orangey contrast on top of it to stain it like a bright colour, so that it's not white. That might give the impression of like a demonic rune. You'd have to test that to see whether it will work with the transfer, because I have no idea. But because of the opacity of the contrast, I reckon if you put that over one of these, it would give it a sort of a glowy effect. And obviously, because you want it to be glowy, I just wouldn't worry about painting it on. I'd just splodge it on so that there's a little bit of overrun. Anyway, you wouldn't need to worry about painting it neatly. So I think in theory, yes, that would work. It's just finding ones that would fit. There's a couple here from the night kits here. So this one doesn't work because they're in black. But one of the night kit ones, I think. So you see all my transfers now. There's like this eye as well. That's quite potentially chaosy. You could style that. Yeah. So this one here. So this is I've only found this so far in the Acastus Night transfer sheet, but there's like a runic script that's in white here. You only get the one little strip here, which you probably can't see very well on the camera. It won't show up very well at all, I don't think. But you can see the black one at the bottom there. There's a white one. The white one is only on this transfer sheet specifically, though. Now, you would be able to obviously probably get that on quite a few tanks, because you wouldn't need much of. You'd have to cut it up, obviously. But yeah, it'd be finding and sourcing that would be difficult. And I'll have a few bits free because I don't use everything, obviously. Obviously, I probably won't be using that anyway, so you know I'd have quite a few little bits you could nick from me anyway. Well, no, I think you could potentially try it with one of these, because obviously, I mean, these are the transfers I've got from my current kits, and I've already used the transfers that I wanted on those kits, and every time I buy a new kit I get a new one of these, so in theory I've got plenty of spare. You know, I mean, that one alone, I've not touched it, and there's what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15, there's about 16 of those symbols alone. Well, you could do 16 tanks with that. Let alone the fact that there's another potentially 2 or 3 lines there you could use just from that one. You could probably deck out an entire tank division with one of these sheets, and I won't use them. So I think it would work. It'd be worth having a go. And like I said, you can pinch these once I've used them, or taken the bits off I want. You know, share transfers around the team and all that. Yeah, so I'd give it a go. But if it doesn't work the way I think it will work, then painting runes on it really isn't that hard. Because you're only doing basic geometry really, which is easy enough to do. I mean, I've done it, and you know, if it was hard, I wouldn't bother doing it. So the only thing I would say, obviously, is to make life easy, don't do it all over them, because then that does become tedious. Not difficult, just tedious. Obviously, if the transfer method works, then that would be fine. You could go as crazy as you wanted then, I think, because the transfers would be quite easy to do. So you could probably have quite runic looking suits. Not suits, armour panels. I was thinking suits for dreadnoughts, actually. You could have quite a few on your dreadnoughts, make them look really, really glowy and nasty and occult. Yeah, no, I think it'd be cool. I think it'd look really cool. Just have to see which method works, really. Yeah, I don't know. There's something about a runic dreadnought that just sings to me. Well, honestly, I would suggest... well, I don't have a problem with either. Infantry being on round or squares, I don't think it really matters in terms of gameplay. It's not going to affect anything realistically. For the most part. Trying to think if there's any instances where it would make a little difference. I don't think it will. So, because again, even in combat, most things have to be paired off as well. So, I don't think it makes a difference there. I've very much gone with the idea that unless you're interacting with arcs, whether that's be for your weapons or for your defences, it's on a round base. If you're interacting with an arc, then you're on a square base. Whether that's because you're a vehicle and therefore have the rear arc, front arc for the armor penetration, or because they are equipped with an arc weapon. So that's kind of the rule of thumb I'm just working on with the armies that I've done. But realistically, I don't have any problem with them being on rounds or squares. The only thing I would like to say is that for the armies that we run on the channel, that we do actually use the square bases for arcs, but it's not something I if you were against it, I'd say no, you couldn't put them on rounds, because that is technically the way they should be done, and that's what they come with in kits. So yeah, go with whatever you want to do. Really, it's just that would be my suggestion, and that's how I would like to sort of phrase it when we put it across to other people to try out our home rules and stuff, is that these are optional. They're not something you have to follow by any means. It's just the preferred method. I don't know if that helps or not. Yeah, you're not wrong. Certainly, that is. It's definitely true. You do get more space. I'm locked in now. Mine are all on circular bases. Square bases were not a thing when we started this process. So all of my infantry are already on circles, and I'm not rebasing all my infantry. No, not doing it. But yeah, no. If you want to use squares, I don't have a problem with it. Personally, do what you like. Simple as that. You could turn up with them on hex bases, and I wouldn't have a problem with it. I might have a problem if they start coming on, cubes. aka dice. That I might have a problem with, but yeah, no. If you want to do square bases, go for it. You certainly would get a little bit more real estate for basing. And I suppose one could argue that gives you some kind of advantage because you've got a little bit more floor space to work with, but I don't care. It's not going to make a big enough of a difference for anyone for it to actually impact the strategy of the game. If I know going in that your guys have got marginally more floor space to cover, then I account for that when I'm playing the game. It's no different to the fact that, technically speaking, our tanks shouldn't be on bases, but they are. But again, you don't have to. It's just a recommendation or the method that we're using. Yeah, that is an option. I just didn't like the idea of having the big flat round magnets raising up the profile of the base any more than it already was. If you want magnet bases though, Legions magnet bases, I've got them all pre-supported as well, because obviously I've printed pretty much every version of them now. In fact, I've just had to print 50 of them, infantry bases for my current infantry. And I do have 25mm round, 25mm square bases with magnet slots in them, because that's what these guys are on. So I probably have every base you'll ever need. Probably. It's up to you. Like I say, you kind of want to do it. You do it the way you want to do it. At the end of the day, I mean, it's not. That's just my preference to the way I do mine. There's nothing saying that you have to do it that way. I just think they look. I think they would look better, flatter, rather than having the magnets raising the bases up a bit. Because I can't imagine those magnets that go under are that thin. They're probably half as thick as the base you printed. Unless they're a lot thinner than I'm imagining, but I can't imagine that if they've got any real magnetic stick to them that they're going to be that thin. And if they are that thin, I can't imagine they're going to stick very well. So I use 6mm by 1mm on the Legions bases. So that's what all the slots are for. They're all for 6mm by 1mm. I use 6mm by 2mm on my 28mm bases, but the actual Legions bases are less than 2mm thick, so that doesn't work. Which is also why some of the bases I've got magnet slots in like some of the large bases have got more magnets than you'd expect, because obviously the 1mm thick magnets aren't quite as durable. Don't quite have as much pull as the 2mm ones. So I think like on my Warmaster Titan, I think I've got something like 16 magnets in its base or something stupid like that, just so that it actually holds. But for like anything that's on a 25mm base, I just use the 1 magnet, more than enough. Almost done with these planes. And then it's onto a series of tanks. At some point this evening I need to go and spray up a load of terrain bases as well. I'm going to paint them later this week then. Get them done and out of the way. Oh, okay. I could see that working quite well alongside a demonic force. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what you do about vehicles though. I don't know that I can offer you much advice when it comes to finding files. You seem to be the guru of file management. I can't think of any off the top of my head. And if you can't find anything yet, then I'm pretty sure I won't be able to. I'm currently still trying to find some files for some alternate loadouts for my Warlord and my Reaver Titan, just so that I've got some more options to run. The Reaver kit's not too bad because you get 3 weapon options to choose from, but the Warlord kits only give you the 1 set, which for an expensive kit is a bit annoying. Let's have a look. Oh, yes, I've seen these before actually. Oh yeah, they're quite cool. Oh, they got the weapon platform thingies, which you can use as the rapier batteries and stuff. Tech specialists, yeah. I mean, you just use them as Velatari. Hammers instead of axes. We've got the Flamer unit, which is good. Got the Ogrin proxies, yep. Standard troopers, yep. Sentinel style unit, yep. Not quite sure what you do use the little flying bug thing for. Drone thing, not bug thing. Command set, yep, that all works. Yeah, no, that works. That's a cool little kit. They could work quite nicely. Demons, Astartes, Mortals, and are you still going to get? Are you still going to do Mechanicus now with this in mind, or is that now less of a interest? About Mechanicus, I obviously mean Dark Mechanicus, because, yeah. If you're doing Demons, you're definitely doing Dark Mechanicus if you're doing Mechanicus. Okay, yeah. Yeah, no, I think that would probably work, yeah. Some kind of arachnid looking vehicle would probably work. And again, that would tie in, like, that would actually tie in quite nicely with the whole dark mech thing as well. Yeah, your Dark Mechanicus, because again, we are setting this probably closer to the current 40k timeline, if not actually in it, rather than the 30k timeline. So the Dark Mechanicus would have had plenty of time to mess around and tinker with the mortal forces and their equipment. So sounds like a pretty reasonable thought to me. I definitely would suggest, obviously, still styling it so that they're approximate to the Solar Rocks units as well, though. Because, so for example, you want like a Lehman Russ scale model to represent a Lehman Russ in terms of rules, but could be more of a crawler rather than a tank track vehicle. Yeah. Which I'm guessing is probably what you were thinking anyway, but just thought I'd clarify. Yeah, because then we only need to worry about writing rules or anything that we're actually adding in, which would be obviously the demons, which, to be honest, I'm not convinced won't eventually come out for Legions anyway. Or should I say not convinced won't come out. I'm pretty... Oh, why am I trying to do double negatives and all this stuff? I'm pretty sure Games Workshop will eventually release demons for Legions. I'm pretty sure they're going to be an army that will eventually make their way there. The interesting thing will be is I'll be very interested to see whether the Dark Mechanicus make their way to 28mm. Well, I see if they will. They've pretty much confirmed that already. If you put together what they've already said, which is that everything in 30k will come to Legions and everything that's in Legions will come to 30k. The real question will be is whether they will come as part of a full faction, or whether they'll just be unit additions. I mean, yes, they potentially could just come in 30k. I think they would be mad to do that because we know that there's a massive outcry for Dark Mech for 40k as well. I think 30k will probably get Dark Mech before 40k. I think that might be a thing that will happen, but I'm not convinced that they won't get them. Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. There's been a few people crying about dinosaur riding elves. I know there's quite a few people that want that. Quite a lot of YouTubers as well. No, it's true. But the difference is the groundwork for Dark Mech is already here. You know, they've got some 8mm kits of Dark Mechanicus units already, which means that they already have everything they need to scale that up. In fact, I'd be more than willing to bet that those are 28mm kits that have been scaled down. So the question is, how are they getting released for the other systems, or if they're getting released for the other systems? I've just realised I put that one on backwards. Oh. Let's have a look. What are we looking at? That's quite cool. Yeah, you could definitely use that. By the way, if you do find some Warlord alternate weapon systems for me, do let me know, because I do need some. Because currently at the moment I've got that Warlord that comes in that box. The Apocalypse missile launchers on the Carapace are fine. Would be nice to have the other options, but they're fine. The Twin Bellicosa Volcano Cannons, again, great weapons! Except no one I play against at the moment has other Titans, which means they are somewhat superfluous. Yeah, please do let me know, because I definitely could use some alternate weapons for that Warlord. Especially while I'm not playing against people who have Titans at the moment. Once some other Titans enter the field, or Titan-sized demons, I'm sure those volcano cannons will come in very handy. But I mostly play with elves at the moment, and she doesn't even like Titans, so I'm not expected to see them on the table anytime soon. Still don't get why she doesn't like the Titans though. They are just so much fun. The thing I don't like about build the only bit of this kit I do not like is this 2-part Avenger Gatling cannon, or Gatling bolt cannon, or Avenger bolt cannon, or whatever it's called. because it's the barrels and then this tiny little disc that goes on the end with the actual barrel cap on it, or whatever it's called, I don't know. I'm paranoid about dropping it. And I'm gonna say that could be the reason to buy Angron. You're gonna buy Angron and use him as a Legion scale, like Imperator class demon, because I'm pretty sure that's how big. Well, yeah, he probably will be. He probably would be about that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. If you do that, I will happily write rules for it because it would be hilarious. The biggest demon to ever walk the mortal plane. Yeah, you could do that, and then I'll make my converted Imperator, and then we'll see which one wins. Which will basically be, can I shoot it down before you get in combat? Because the Imperator is not exactly going to be an efficient melee combatant, but I'd imagine a Imperator scale bloodthirster is probably going to be an absolute wrecking machine. Oh, you've put that in my head now. I really want you to do that. Oh, see that? How do you find these things so fast? I looked for about an hour this morning, could only find really poor ones that I wasn't happy with. And even then I didn't find most of them. I think I only found 1 or 2 weapons. It does come at a price. When you say come at a price, are we talking financial, or is that being a little bit more of a obscure reference there? Because I don't mind paying a little bit of money to get the bits I want. Oh. You're not telling me I'm going to have to try and slice them off a full-scale model or something? Because slicing them off another model might be a pain. What is this? What? Oh, what? What? is this monstrosity? I genuinely don't know. I'm a little disturbed, I'm not gonna lie. But it does look like the weapons are free floating, so that's something. I feel ashamed that I'm saving that file for printing, or at least some of it. Yeah. Okay. I need to double check and make sure that that's the right scale. But yes, that could be a few weapons I need. See, the only thing now I'm missing is the power claw. I think. Actually, I think there's a few other weapons, but... Oh, right. This is almost done. Just got to get these last bits on. And that's just the underslung weapons, and these guys are done. Oh, there is more. Of course there's more. What is this? Now see, now that requires me to pay for it. I don't know if I'd want to give this person money. Oh, just reading that description, it's definitely not a well-designed model. Yeah. Question is how they're put together, because just by reading that description I can tell that they put no effort into how the arms attach to the body and stuff like that, which means there could be some significant post work to make that fit. I might have to pull the free version of that file into Blender and just see how they look before I even contemplate buying that pack to get the rest of the weapons, because the mounting points could be a big issue. What do you mean something? That's vague. I've still got that or not. I need to have a look, see if I've got it. Got it. I don't think GW even sells like the weapons individually, do they? You have to buy the whole Titan to get the separate kits. I think I found all the bits I need to turn into a Psi Titan, I think. Which I might have to do, to be fair. Alright, let's put some wings on. That reminds me, I've got a lovely sci-fi mag train kit, or 3D printable kit that I found ages ago, which I need to print off. Little plane. Yeah, once I've got some of the other terrain done, that's one of the kits I'll definitely be printing and building up, because that would be quite cool. Fighting in around a train. Yeah, and it's also got like flatbed compartments as well, so you could almost use it to transport stuff around the table, which sounds really like a really cool idea. Like you could try and put on like some vehicles and stuff and just transport them across the table. Sounds like quite an interesting idea. I mean, it's a great idea until a Titan decides to walk through the tracks. Quite a few terrain projects to be working on over the next few months. That's why I want to get all these armies done, so that I can start focusing on the board next. Making some nice boards. Yeah, but it needs to be in lore though. So who is the Spider-Man of 40k? It's probably worth noting to the audience, present and future, that as of this moment in time of recording, the previous week's episode will have just gone live on YouTube. So if you do want to continue listening to my rambling tones and watch me paint some Imperial Knights, or some Knight Armigers to be specific, from last week, then that will be live on YouTube. So feel free to go check that out, and this stream will be closing up not too long from now. We started a bit later, so we will carry on a little bit later. But not too much longer, especially as we are almost reaching the end of these flyers actually, so we'll probably get these done and then probably call it a day. I will probably carry on and build some more, but I shall do so off camera, I'd have thought. Oh, looks like we might have some more files. Let's have a look, see what have we got. Some Warhound weapons. Oh, that could be for a Reaver. Not sure what that's for. Warmaster Times can't take that gun, so that's either mislabeled or just wrong. Might be a couple of options in there. Ooh. I could see that being useful for a terrain idea. Yeah, there's definitely some potential options in there. Yeah, it might be a couple of options in there that is usable. There's only one bit in there I spied straight away thinking, oh, I could use that for a terrain piece. That I've had in mind for a while, I just haven't had the parts for it. stretch. Finish off my Auxilia Air Wing for now. Do they? I didn't see that. I was skimming it, in fairness. Oh yeah, I've just seen it, yeah. That could work. Should we have a look at that later? Might be printing off some extra limbs. Oh, actually, I do know some files that might be interesting for you, actually. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, that does look nice. That looks like it'd be a nightmare to paint. But it does look nice. Yeah, no, I've got, I know of, I mean, you probably already know them, but, because it's you. But there's a designer that does a whole set of armor plate alternatives for all the different Titan classes. Legion scale knights, obviously. Obviously, that would mean that you would need the official kits to make them work, probably. Just send that one. That's just the one that I've got saved. But if you have a look at the other ones that they've done, they've got alternative armor panels, so you can make them look a bit more chaosy, or completely chaosy. The only caveat to that is you would need the official kits. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure he's got armor panels for all of them, I think. If I remember right, he's definitely got the Reavers and the Warhounds. I'm pretty sure he's got Warlord plates. The only one I don't remember for certain is whether he's got plates for the War Master. But you could definitely get some appropriately spiky Titans. Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, that is full-on chaos. Things like that one, though, put me off because they just look like they might be a pain to paint. And also imagine it's probably not the easiest thing to print either. Unless they come with very good pre-supports. That's the thing I've learned when I'm doing these things is you got to think about the amount of effort you're willing to put in. I think you can do. You'll end up making something better, and you'll be more committed to it. Is if it's something you're willing to do, rather than trying to force yourself to go through something you don't enjoy doing. Oh, do I fancy writing rules for something? I mean, yes, just a general rule, so probably. I mean, yes, I am. Sure, I'll write rules for that. You print it, you paint it, I'll write rules for it. The more fun and wacky stuff, the better. Oh, here's an important one. Do you have a teeny tiny logger? Because you'll need a teeny tiny logger. Has our favourite designer done logger yet? Okay. Yes, you would. Just so that we could all kill him. Repeatedly. Oh, I'm sure they'll get there, yeah. I try and make sure I download them all as they come out, because I do want to do them all at some point. Oh, I think I might have some 8mm Galval back somewhere. Depends whether you found some already, or is that just you spitballing an idea? These guns on the fiddly. There we go. Ah, well, I'm pretty sure I have some. Because when someone else was looking at doing word bearers, I found some. We've already got some Chaos Terminators, which we have printed, and some Raptors. Although I have to say with those, we are styling them as the Night Lord specialist units rather than generics. So you might want to find some alternative versions of them. You could do a demon logger. Oh, we've already got a load of jumps already. Okay. Almost a bit on the floor. Saved it at the last second though. There we go. 4 fighters done. Let's pop them on some bases. Yeah, it was almost one of the tiny pieces that went on the floor as well. Because why would it not be one of the small pieces? Try and get it in shot there. One plane. It's a shame I don't have any models to hand to show you just how high up these look, but they look much cooler on these longer stands, I have to say. And again, I will reiterate, this was not my idea. I stole it off a few people I've seen on YouTube already that have done some tall flying stands for their Legions Imperialis flyers. Now they went and did clear acrylic rods by the looks of it, but I do much prefer these threaded rods because then I can take them off and have them land and use them as terrain as well if I want to. And they're sturdy. Ain't coming off anytime soon. There we go. So we will actually have a full air wing now. Oh, there we go, look. Not including the 16 transport flyers, but we have 8 fighter planes now. That's a good question. So in terms of so let's go to this camera now. So in terms of Solar Auxilia, I think their primary anti-tank comes from the Tarantula batteries, I think. Yeah. Well, yeah, their Tarantula batteries and their other aircraft, basically. Like these things are quite good because I think most of their guns are Skyfire, so they can fire away at other planes, and I think they have the interceptor rule as well, which means they can fire at planes as they come on as well. So the Auxilia tend to rely on their own planes to deal with planes, and they do have the Tarantula batteries. I don't think many of their actual units can target air assets very efficiently other than that. The Astartes, possibly some of their support units can, but I haven't looked into those rules. What I do know is the Deredeo dreadnoughts are anti-flyer dreadnoughts, and they're quite effective from what I've seen. They're pretty reliable. Yeah, so potentially some of their sort of man-portable defence platforms might be anti-air. I can't remember off the top of my head. But the Deredeos, and obviously their interceptors, or whatever they're called. So again, flyer to flyer, or the Deredeos are your primary. Yep, good old Doritos. Knights realistically only have the Acastus Knight Pytherion, which can have the Helios missiles. That's the only thing really that is designed to take out Skyfire, so the Night House will struggle a bit more. The only exception to that really is the Castigator, which has a bolt cannon. That's only because it gets 5 shots, so it's got a chance of plinking a wound in. And flyers don't tend to have high saves. So yeah, by sheer weight of volume of shots, the Castigator can kind of do the job, but not very efficiently. So the Knights will struggle more against flyers than anything else. Titans have, as far as I know, there's only one model that actually has an anti-fly weapon, and that is the big Warmaster, and it's only the little defense guns on its top carapace, which are actually quite effective. I mean, it's 5 shots with Skyfire and possibly tracking, I can't remember. So, reasonably effective, but they're not going to wipe out an entire air wing in one shot. Very unlikely to, anyway. And obviously that's a big 700 point model that only has very limited anti-air fire. What I did discover, though, is that the Vulcan Mega Bolter, which you can pretty much equip on every Titan chassis, I think, in some way, shape or form. The Warhounds can have it on its arms. I think the Reavers and the Warlords can have them as carapace weapons, and that thing can have them as on the shoulders. Yeah, Mega Bolters, 10 shots with rapid fire, so every 6 is double hit. So yes, you're not going to necessarily hit many times, but those times you hit are double the shot, double the hits. Yeah, so they kind of work as anti-air, kind of. You know, I remember I definitely had one game where I got caught out by a couple of Fire Raptors, and I had a Vulcan Mega Bolter fire into them and actually take 2 of the 3 out with 1 round of firing from 1 Vulcan Mega Bolter. So you imagine you stick a couple of Vulcan Mega Bolters on a few Titans, and you're relatively okay to deal with most air assets. Yeah, so generally speaking, in order to deal with air, you probably need to run air assets. But there are ways of doing it without. You just have to take specialist units, which kind of makes sense. Air assets are a specialist asset, so you need to bring a specialist asset to deal with them, or just bring your own. So swings and roundabouts, really. As you know, I love flyers, and when I decided to sort of sideline the Alpha Legion a little bit and focus more on the Knights and Titans, with then the humans as the auxiliaries, I suddenly realised, hang on, the Auxilia has a great air force. So yeah, they I will be running lots of planes, probably a lot. So it will be worth thinking about when you're building your lists, particularly when you play against me, because there probably will be plenty of air assets on the table. I will probably bring them. I'll probably be more likely to bring planes than I will be to bring tanks, and I still have a lot of tanks. That's just the style of play I enjoy. So, right. Well, I think that is probably going to be it for the stream today. We've got those all built up. I'm probably going to take a bit of a break now. Probably have some dinner. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. I imagine that they will probably be able to benefit. They might have some weapons that have high rates of fire and the rapid fire trait, which the rapid fire trait turns out is kind of an anti-air trait, just by the sheer nature that you get that 6/3 and you get an extra hit. And those weapons tend to have high number of dice shots, tend to. So I'd also look for anything that has the rapid fire trait. They kind of tend to lend themselves to being reasonable at dealing with air assets as well. Ironically, it's a bit of a strange one, but in some ways also kind of makes sense. So yeah, you might not have Skyfire or tracking, but if you got rapid fire, you're onto a potential option there. Might not be the most efficient, but it's still good. Yeah, so that'll be it for this afternoon. Like I said, I shall be taking a break, having some food, and then I should probably carry on later, but I won't be doing that on stream. I'd like to thank Zeta for coming to join me to have a little chat and discussion, and that's obviously led to you guys doing some stuff. I raid time. I still don't know what that means, or how that works, or what that is. I'm still very new to this whole twitching concept, as most of you are probably well aware or will be aware. Yeah, I think I know what that I know what that is. I just don't know how one does that, or what you mean by doing that. Oh, well, I'm now holding that thought. so much for me closing out just now. I'll give you the command. I'm just going to find someone for... Okay. I'm sure this is going to look wonderful on YouTube at some point next week. Or this time next week. Okay, fine. Yep, we'll figure that out for next time, potentially. Right. Anyway, so that is it. Thanks for again, Data, for being here and having a chat and keeping things flowing. This will be, if you're now watching this in the future, you probably will have hopefully maybe just watched us live, or watched me live. We'll be doing these every week going forward, and there will potentially be new ones coming out soon as well. I'm possibly going to be doing a bonus stream on New Year's Eve, so feel free to come along to that. But yeah, we're all good. So I'm going to finish up now because I'm going to start to ramble. So I've been Arcadius J from Mead Wargaming. Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you sometime in the future in the Mead Hall. Goodbye for now.